Welcome to United Way of King County's weekly live stream, focusing this week on food relief during COVID-19. Today we're joined by Angela Dunleavy-Stowell, Chief Executive Officer at FareStart, and Lauren McGowan, United Way's Senior Director of Ending Homelessness and Poverty. Today we'll discuss how our community is working to make sure people have access to the food they need during COVID-19 restrictions, and it's presented by the Safeway Foundation. Please enter your questions for Angela and Lauren in the live stream chat window, and we'll try to get to all of them following the discussioning today. With that, Lauren and Angela, please take it away.
Hey, Angela, how are you doing?
I am well, Lauren. Nice to see you.
Always good to see you as well. Where are you calling us today from?
I'm actually in the office today, so I'm in our FareStart offices. I try to get here a few days a week so I can actually get some work done. With being at home with kiddos, even with the best childcare, is still really hard.
And how have you and your family been doing during this challenging time?
You know, we're doing okay. We're hanging in there. I will say I'm really incredibly lucky to have a wonderful nanny who is taking such great care of the boys. I did adopt a puppy, and I do have a child with a broken hand. So, you know, boys and dogs.
Wow. Well, that sounds like a lot, but I'm glad to hear that outside of the broken bone, you guys are all doing well.
We are. Thank you for asking.
So, you know, you and I both know that hunger has been a challenge for a long time, but the COVID pandemic certainly has brought that to light. Mm-hmm. Tell me a little bit about what FareStart has been doing over the last couple of weeks.
So we really have pivoted from our day-to-day business, as most people have, to provide emergency meals to those most in need. And it really was possible because we were providing these meals anyway in the community. So prior to the COVID crisis, as part of our job training, we have always provided meals to the community, primarily to homeless shelters, some healthcare facilities, and childcare centers and schools. And so this was a really natural pivot for us to go to emergency meals once we saw that our other social enterprise training classrooms, if you will, our restaurant and our cafes and catering were not going to be operable. So it was a really easy transition. And I'm really proud to say that as of today, we've served over 250,000 meals since the crisis.
Wow. That's incredible. Congratulations. And thank you to you and the team. That's huge. Tell me a little bit, you know, you obviously have been set up because you do meals. That's what the organization does. Tell me a little bit about what went through the early days of thinking in terms of making some of these organizational pivots and which partners you reached out to.
So we made this switch really early on. We probably within the first 1 or 2 weeks of the crisis in late February and early March, we started talking with our homeless service providers as they were looking at shelter expansions. We started working with King County very early on as they were identifying quarantine sites. And then we were looking again at our own social enterprise businesses and seeing that we had a lot of extra capacity within our kitchens to just add on to these meals. So it became a really fast-moving initiative, once we started to see the writing on the wall that things were going to be, that quarantine was, happening within some King County sites, that stay-at-home orders were imminent, and we just really looked at there are going to be some significant needs in the community, and where do we play a role, and where have we always played a role. So some of our earliest conversations were with those long-standing partners like Downtown Emergency Services Center, YMCA, Plymouth Housing. We have been doing a lot of work with them in light of this crisis. So really looking at the folks who really need the support and figuring out where we can plug in, and really making it a holistic approach of service to those in need.
It's amazing. I've been so inspired by the way that the community has come together. We have, at United Way right now, we have hundreds of volunteers and AmeriCorps members who are out there serving food every single day, alongside folks like you and our schools. And it's just amazing to see how our community is responding. But we also know that there are some challenges. So I'm curious, what's keeping you up at night?
Well, I think just generally, the uncertainty of how long this event is going to last. This isn't, like a typical disaster where you can map the recovery after an earthquake or a hurricane. So I think the uncertainty of, just making sure that our FareStart students who have been on hold now for a couple of now going on, 6 weeks, who are living in shelters and are unstably housed, that they're taken care of. I think from a food system perspective, the things that really kind of are keeping me awake right now are the breakdowns that we're having in the food system, that we have a tremendous number of people who are in need. We're providing a third meal via the Seattle public school sites that are offering their free lunches. But we know that there are all of these new families who have incredible amounts of need. And we have this huge food system that's breaking down. We're hearing about it every day in the media, from, farmers turning crops and, dairy farmers dumping milk. And just that we as FareStart have the capacity to transform those products into reheatable frozen meals, reheatable fresh meals, and getting that food out to communities that really need them. And the most vulnerable in our communities, we know, need nutrition to heal. And so I think that it's figuring out that system and getting the food out as fast as we possibly can is really what's keeping me up at night.
Yeah, I think that makes so much sense. And it's, we've long said that there's plenty of food out there, right? But that the access to it isn't equitable. And in times like this, often the systems that we have aren't working as well as they could or they should. It's certainly one of the reasons that we've been thinking a lot about how do we get the food purchasing power into the hands of people who are able to shop. And so why things like the SNAP or food stamp program are so important for folks that are eligible, so that they can go out and make sure that they can continue to purchase the food that is culturally appropriate, meets their dietary needs, and gives them some nourishment to feel like things are returning to a little bit of normal.
Yeah, and I love that. I love that United Way is thinking about this too. And we have a great partnership. We were talking before we got on the call that we're now at the Seattle Housing Authority sites in partnership with YMCA, providing meals to families who are living in those locations. But I know that you're all doing a lot of work around food vouchers, and so I just am grateful for that as well.
Yeah, we're so fortunate that this community is rallying together, and we've been able to team up with the city of Seattle and provide more food vouchers to low-income families, support our emergency food system, and then partner with folks like you to leverage the federal nutrition programs like summer meals that exist. One of the things I've been thinking a lot about is just the importance of food. And, your background in the food industry, what you're doing every day at FareStart, why do you think food is so important in this moment in time?
Well, I think that, if you think about like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? What do you need? Like you need food and shelter. And those are things that are really at risk for so many of our, neighbors and community members right now. And I think, that piece that I touched on, like as we have kids who are home trying to learn in a different way in a probably fairly high stress environment for some kids, for kids who are and families who are unstably housed. We know that we need to take a whole person and a whole child approach to, just adapting to these new learning environments, adapting to trauma that they may have as a result of this and other life circumstances, and then just the general bringing people back to health. I think that that's probably where I think about what FareStart is doing and the ability to take fresh, scratch-cooked food and repurpose it, again, into a reheatable meal or a ready-to-eat meal, so that families aren't relying on heavily processed, foods that really disproportionately affect and impact the health of people who are living in poverty. So I think that it's right now more than ever is such a critical thing that we need to be focused on.
I totally agree with you, and it's amazing what good, healthy food can do for somebody, both their spirits and their health. One of the things that we worry a lot about right now is the racial disparities we see among our homeless population, people living in poverty, and those that experience hunger. And I'm curious, how are you thinking about how the work that you're doing at FareStart addresses some of those racial disparities?
Well, I think to the point that we made earlier, just the populations that we're serving are disproportionately affected by, race equity issues. And so I think that one of the things is just simply through the organizations that we're partnered with, folks like, down and taking meals out to the Seattle public school sites. Part of it is access and getting into the communities where people are living and getting, and I think that that's really when we think about how we need to address, food justice and this and how it intersects with race equity. It's meeting people where they are and going into communities that need it most. And as you said, oftentimes those are communities of color, and we're really targeting making sure that we're getting into those sites and locations.
That's incredible, and I think it's so important, especially right now when I think about folks that
This is technology at its finest. And I lost you for a moment. Will you say that again?
You bet. So, one of the things I think a lot about right now are the people who are not eligible for federal benefits. For other
Hey, Lauren,
use all of this really important.
we apologize for the tech problems there. Lauren, you're breaking up more than not. Angela, let's let you go ahead and take the lead for a moment.
Yeah, I think Lauren, if what I'm understanding is, I think that you were referencing to the gap that there is in people who may not be eligible for food assistance, who might not be getting those SNAP benefits, and who might be falling through the cracks. Am I following you? Great.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that, as this becomes a protracted event where folks are out of work for a long period of time, and there's such a strain on the food bank system right now, we're hearing about that again every day. I think that we need to be creative in coming up with different ways of getting meals to families who need them. And again, I think this is really the beauty of the meals that we're delivering to the Seattle public school sites. Families can go there, and they're going there already to get their school plans, to pick up their computers for their kiddos. And now they can go there and get not only the free lunches that the school district is offering, but a third meal that we are offering as well. And they can do it in a way that gives them access where they may not know how else to find those resources. And so I think just coming up and for us, it's coming up with creative ways and continuing to pivot and be nimble and deliver food to families who may not have needed it before, and just identifying that there is an increased, not only an increased strain on the entire food system and the food bank system in particular, but that there are just different delivery vehicles in which people need to get food.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for all that you're doing. We're so proud to be partnering with you. I think one of the things that we think a lot about at United Way is that food insecurity is something that was happening before, it's happening now, and it will continue happening. And we've tried really hard to make sure that we're leveraging partnerships for and partnership Angela and FareStart. We are very concerned about things among our college students, because it's really hard on kind of our colleges to make sure that those students have access to before this crisis, during this crisis, and long after in developed program. So again, thank you so much for all that you're doing.
Thank you. I appreciate the partnership and the work that United Way is doing in not only this and in housing security as well. And I know that rents are due on Friday for a lot of folks, and United Way is doing a lot of work in that as well. And you guys have the community fund supporting that as well. So thank you.
You bet. Yeah, the Community Relief Fund is something we encourage others to donate to. You can visit uwkc.org and find out ways to give to our rent relief, our food assistance, and other basic needs funds, as well as find opportunities to volunteer and advocate for change.
Lauren and Angela, thank you very much. And I am sorry we had some technical sound issues there, Lauren. I'm going to try to read some questions that have come in the chat now. And we're going to have Lauren mute her video, but keep her mic on so she can help reply. And hopefully that'll clear up the bandwidth. CH asks, can the adults in a family access school meals, or are they only for kids?
So the meals that we're providing, I don't want to speak for the school district, but the meals that we are providing, the dinner meals, they're meant for the entire family. So families can come in, and we know that nutritious meals are just as important for those parents as they are for the kids. And so the meals that we're providing, which those meals are really funded by the community. And so I would be remiss to not mention that FareStart really is needing as much fundraising as we can get as well to provide those meals out to the community. But we really intend for those dinner meals to be for the entire family. We are so grateful to Seattle Public Schools for letting us deliver at their Seattle Public School sites, but certainly meals are meant for their families.
Fantastic, Angela. Lauren, have you anything to add?
No, I think it's exactly why we need to keep raising private philanthropic dollars so that not just in Seattle schools, but across King County, we can continue to provide adult meals so that everyone has access.
Fantastic.
And I think I would just add, we have created a system here at FareStart with community partners, including restaurant partners and folks like the Seahawks, so that we have kitchen capacity to provide more meals, and we know that we can do that. And as we identify need, which is one of the other big areas of challenge, is a central located area to identify meal needs. As we identify the need and we can raise the dollars, we have the kitchen capacity to get the meals out.
I've got another question. Wow, 250,000 meals. How and where have you expanded beyond the meals that you typically serve?
From just the homeless provider sector, we saw a 1,400% increase in meals. And so a lot of the increase has been to the expanded shelter space there. The meals that we are delivering at the Seattle Public School sites, that's about 3,500 meals a day. So we have quickly gone from about 5,000 meals a week to over 10,000 meals a day. And so the need is, as homeless shelters are needing to expand, their meal needs are expanding. In addition, we are serving folks like I mentioned Plymouth Housing, and they're a permanent supportive housing provider who are living in communal. They have communal kitchens, and so they're needing individual meals to keep people safe and in that safe social distancing. Same with a lot of the low-income senior centers that we're serving.
Wonderful. A question from Caesar. Is there a way to work with farmers to acquire their excess product so it doesn't just get dumped?
Absolutely. So we have a really robust food recovery program here at FareStart. You can go to fairstart.org, and there we have a page for food recovery, and we're actively needing and soliciting in-kind donations. I know Lauren can probably speak to this as well. And there needs to be, I think that there is an opportunity for us to come up with a regional plan and a regional system to, again, I talk a lot about repurposing this fresh food. Sometimes if we can't get it into restaurants and the schools because they're closed to utilize that product, there are opportunities for folks like FareStart and others to repurpose that wholesale food, if you will, and that farm fresh food into fresh meals. And so we certainly are welcoming, and we have a large food recovery program anyway.
Thank you, Angela. Lauren, this is one right up your alley. Why is the need so pronounced right now during this crisis?
Sure. Well, we know that so many folks were struggling with food insecurity and just living on the edge before this crisis. Over 100,000 students in King County rely on free and reduced meals every single day. And we know that so many more were on the edge because of the high cost of housing, because of low-paying jobs. And with this crisis, so many people have gone out of work so quickly. And any safety net that they had has really they've used it for rent. They've used it for whatever they needed to. And now they're really, really struggling with food insecurity. The other thing is that, we know that there's plenty of food in the system, but there have been cutbacks to our federal safety net that make it harder and harder for families who should be eligible for things like SNAP or school meal programs to access them. So we have sort of a supply and demand issue right now. And I think what Angela's team is seeing, what our team is seeing, and folks across the community is that we need to address this both at the system and policy level and at the grassroots activist level.
Fantastic. Well, Angela and Lauren, I'm going to pass it back to you. Lauren, feel free if you want to try your video again to do so, but if we wave at you, then we'll want you to cut it down. You've got about 4 more minutes for any closing thoughts, and then I'll sign us off.
Thanks, Jared, and thanks for all those great questions. Angela, tell us a little bit about what you see the next 3 to 6 months looking like for FareStart.
Well, one of the things that we are really thinking about, and that I alluded to earlier, that really weighs on me is our students and our graduates. So prior to COVID, we, for those who aren't as familiar with FareStart, food is the delivery of how we do our training, and we serve to disrupt poverty and nourish communities through life skills and job training, and that job training is in food service sector, and we know that the restaurant sector has been crippled by this crisis. So we're spending a lot of time thinking about how can we continue to support the students who I mentioned were on hold. When students are in programming with us, we provide housing for them if they don't have their own housing. We provide mental health supports, recovery supports, and just case management. So we're finding a new way to provide all of those things while they are on hold and while we can't do our training. But then we're thinking about, what does it look like when jobs start turning back on? How do we get our graduates back to work? Many of them have come back and are helping us with these emergency meals, but what kind of supports do those who already have barriers to employment need to get back into meaningful work? And then how do we restart our training so that we can get more people off the streets, who are coming out of incarceration and who need that level of support and those soft skills and that life empowerment and the job skills to make sure that we aren't creating a greater socioeconomic problem and a greater issue with people who are unsheltered than we already have.
That's incredible. There's so many foundations, corporate partners, individuals who are helping us out right now. I want to give a big shout out to the Safeway Foundation, who have been instrumental in our COVID relief efforts, as well as our ongoing child nutrition efforts, and who have helped to sponsor this Facebook Live today. Angela, who are some of the folks that are doing great work to support your team?
We have, so I really want to say thank you so much to Amazon has been really such a terrific supporter of ours. We have received some tremendous amount of support from Tableau Foundation, from All in Seattle has been just a tremendous, they have, tremendous amount of support there. Seattle Foundation, so many people, I think that that really the big, and I'm sure I'm missing some, big partners, so I apologize. But really, I'm so grateful to everyone who has given $5, $10, $20 through social media channels or just from coming to our websites. Those dollars really add up, and we're so grateful for all of the community support.
Absolutely. It's pretty incredible. And, I continue to say, whether it is $1, $100, $1,000, every single bit helps, especially when it comes to making sure folks have access to food. There's also plenty of volunteer opportunities. So if you're watching this and you are interested in getting involved in volunteer opportunities, there are both virtual opportunities. So we have teams of people calling families all throughout King County to find out where and what their needs are, so we can get those services to them. There's also plenty of in-person volunteer opportunities for folks who aren't at high risk of COVID and feel comfortable doing that. Angela, does your team have any volunteer opportunities right now?
Yeah, some of it is the work that we're doing together. I think at Seattle Housing Authority, there are some opportunities there, but we have volunteer opportunities 5 days a week to get out to the Seattle public school sites and hand out those meals to the families who are coming to pick up. And I know I'm hearing from volunteers every day, just sharing experiences. And I was out at a couple of sites last week, and it was really great to just get out into the community and just to do that work.
Absolutely. And then I think the final thing that everyone can do is make sure you're calling your legislators and letting them know about the importance of food access. We are advocating heavily for the SNAP program to be increased by 15% so that people who are eligible and accessing SNAP are able to make those dollars go further. And that when there are needs in your community, you're letting us know. I think, as Angela has said, if there are needs for meals in different communities, her team has capacity, and we just need to bring all these different resources together so that we're meeting the community need. Angela, anything else you want to say?
No, I am so grateful to be part of this call. It's always nice. We were commenting yesterday that it was like bringing the band back together. So as a United Way board member, thank you for all of the work that United Way is doing. And as a service partner, thank you so much for the partnership.
Thanks for all you're doing, Angela, and big thanks to our incredible community.
Yes, thank you. All right.
Thank you, Angela and Lauren, for all the work you're both doing to assure people across the community have access to healthy food. And thank you to the viewers and for your questions. And a big thank you to Safeway Foundation for presenting today's conversation and the work they're doing in helping families have access to food through the food voucher program. We hope everybody will tune in and join us next week when we'll talk about our education strategies at United Way and how they're shifting during this time, and how the local nonprofits work to make sure students are supported are staying on track. We'll be joined by Rule Olende Jr., Community Impact Manager for Youth at United Way of King County, Hazel Cameron, Executive Director at the 4C Coalition, and Donald Cameron, the Executive Director of Seattle Cares Mentoring Movement. You can learn more about anything you heard today and follow us at uwkc.org. Thank you all, and we'll see you next week.